in this exercise, we're going to create what's called a heart map. So do excuse my drawing. So this is my heart map that I did this morning, but this is actually not what my final heart map will look like. I'll talk about that in a moment. So what is a heart map? Well, it's a visual reminder, a bit like a vision board, of everything that you love and care about. So it really helps if you can think about what matters to you on a very personal and deep level. But it also lets you travel to a space inside of yourself where you find all of those things that give you and your life meaning. So the first thing to do is to get a piece of paper and scribble a heart. Now what you might want to do is, in your journal you might have one heart, or you might want to have a series of hearts over a number of different pages. So you might have a heart for love, life, people, food, business, all sorts of things. So it's entirely up to you. But what I did with this, just as a really quick example, was to draw a heart and then did some scribbles and then just put different words and little drawings and things in. So for example, I've got my mum, I've got my dogs, I've got got me, and I have cake. So cake is very important. But the idea is that you take this heart map and you write down anything and everything that you love. So it's about you, life, people, things, anything. Now what I'm going to do in terms of creating my heart map is I'm going to do a creative project. So I've got a massive frame and I've got some wire mesh, and I'm going to get one of my friends to staple the wire mesh to the back of the frame, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to create a heart, but I'm going to create it out of pictures and objects, obviously, that I can tie in some way to the mesh. Now I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it right at this moment, but what I do know is that I'm going to turn this massive frame into a heart map of everything I love. Now if you're an artist, you might want to paint something. If you're a sculptor, you might want to sculpt something. It doesn't have to be the written word, but my invitation is that we start with writing. So you start your heart map as a written thing and then decide what you want to do next. So when you've done it, my first question is did you remember to put you into your heart map? Because actually you are central to everything that you love. And when you look at it, are you surprised with what came up? And how do you feel about what you've scribbled or painted or sculpted or made? You know, what feelings and emotions does that evoke? So when you've done it, what I'd like you to do is to leave it and then come back later to these questions. So ask these questions. So when you're looking at all these things that you love, what has really affected your heart? Now that can be in a good or not so good way, but what's affected your heart? So when you kind of look at the things that you've written down, what people have been important to you. So I know that despite having some not so good relationships, they've actually been very important to me. So if my first husband hadn't called me stupid, for example, then I wouldn't have done a master's degree. So he gave me a fantastic gift, and that is really the kickstart of a massive journey of education and knowledge that I went on. Someone else did something and I wouldn't have bought this house here, and someone else did something which meant that I put my dogs into our motorhome, drove to Spain 6 weeks after I discovered what they'd done. But despite them being not great experiences, they're really important people to my life. They have helped me to grow beyond anything. But there's also massively important people in my life, like my dad. My dad is in spirit, but he is always with me. My mum is on the earth plane. We talk every day. Just I have the most amazing relationship with my mum. She just is, what an incredible person. Important people. My dogs aren't people, but they just mean the world to me. So I'm going to call them people. And what about some of those experiences? You know, when I drove away from the house I was living in, drove to my friends for the weekend, and then drove all the way to Spain and came to this house which was completely wrecked. And I'll never forget that, sitting here. Sometimes I laughed hysterically, sometimes I cried my eyes out. I was thinking, what am I doing here? But it's a great experience. And then there's other experiences, you know, different kinds of holidays, to ride a motorbike. And I can tell you that every holiday I went on, it poured with rain. So I ended up carrying like loads of luggage in my beautiful red leathers, I hasten to add, soaked to the skin. It was, and sleeping in a tent without sleeping bags and all sorts of things. They are such treasured times. So I'm sure you have the same sorts of things. So happy and sad, what kind of memories come up for you? So they're all part of making us who we are, and they all live, those emotions, they all live inside of us. And what secrets have you kept in your heart? Now, obviously, I can't tell you any of my secrets because they're secrets. But what secrets? So, you know, when you're looking at this heart map, just glance at, just pick one of the questions and see where it takes you. And this is a great opportunity to explore in your journal. What you might want to do is come and do a live and speak those things out. So one of the things that I've really learned is that if I write something, if I pick my mobile phone up and maybe do a live or just talk to my phone and then, you know, listen to it afterwards, it really does something absolutely amazing to help me find my voice, the heart of me. So these are your heart map journaling questions. Pick one, do them all, just take your time, explore, you know, connect to your muse, connect to your breath, and remember that your hand is connected to your heart. So we're going to follow up my rubbish drawing, but my example of a heart map, we're going to follow that up with some of these questions.